say thank you very much for coming today. We would have been in the main hall if we knew this number that was coming. I appreciate you being here. We want to take this opportunity to thank everyone that has made the trip out of town. Hopefully some of your questions will be answered, and we want to continue with any type of business seminars that we may think that is needed in this community, because we all want the same thing. We want to grow, and we want to continue to grow and be very successful. And I would first like to introduce Chief Mike Boca.
What I'm going to do is talk about the fire department a little bit. I want to give you guys an idea of who we are, what our capabilities are, what our limitations are. So we're a town of 25,000 people, and we have 3 fire stations. They're fully staffed with 8 members, commissioned from the Texas Commission on Fire Protection. We have station 1, 3, and 4. They're strategically located throughout the city. We had a fire station 2 over off the Pine Mill that closed many, many years ago, and maybe many, many years from now, maybe we can get it open one day. We have a full complement of apparatus. We have 2 engine companies, and we have a ladder truck. We got a ladder truck that's in reserve that can be called in. One of the things that I want to talk about is, so we have 14 firefighters on duty daily. That's my minimum staff is 14. NFPA 1710, which dictates and guides us in the number of firefighters that it takes to fight a structure fire, mandates that you have at least 14 for a residential house fire, meaning a 2,000 square foot home. Once you start to exceed that, I've got to call people back in order to meet those expectations. One of that is just for an open kind of mall type strip center. It takes about 27 firefighters to aggressively work to control that fire, because it's really important for us to be able to keep the citizens and visitors of Paris safe, but also protect the investments that the majority of you in here have, your business. You know, if one of your businesses catch on fire, and I use Ford's as an example. We had that Ford's restaurant just caught on fire. I'll give you a little story behind, brief history behind it. We went there at about 3:30 in the morning. They had a fryer fire. We put it out. Okay. We specifically told the owner and the employees that they need to have it cleaned and they need to have it serviced before they turn it back on. We left. We were back there at 6:30 in the morning because they fired it back up, and when we pulled up, fire was through the roof. That business is closed right now. Now, if you're in the country, 8 out of 10 businesses that have fires within their business do not reopen. 6 won't even try, 4 will, 2 may succeed. So I don't know if Ford's will ever reopen. If we were to have a fire at Campbell Soup, to where it was significant enough where they had to shut down production for a while, they would probably, Campbell Soup's not going to stop production. They're going to open lines up where? In other facilities. And then they just might scratch it and walk away. So what happens to the city if something like that happens? That's why we're here. We have a callback process, so yes, we call firefighters back in to handle larger things. We have apartment complexes or business fires or things like that. I'll give you a little bit of history, and because I'm from the Detroit area, and a lot of people know that Detroit City's known for having a lot of fires, right? Detroit City in 2018 had 2,700 fires. That's a lot of fires. There's 800,000 people there. The city of Paris had 78 fires in 2018. These are working fires. We have 25,000. If we compared that with Detroit, we would have had 2,400 that size. So we get a significant amount of fires in this city. And a lot of it has to do with COVID. We've made process for tearing a lot of buildings down, a lot of dilapidated ones, and we've reduced the fire load significantly. Those fires several years ago, and you can ask Chief McGonigal and Chief Cruz, they were in the hundreds here per year. So we've been able to reduce that by getting rid of some of these dilapidated houses. So what's my job? My job is to protect the lives and protect the property that you're investing in. And that's what we're here to do. But we can only do it with your cooperation. It's a process. Everything's a process. It's going to take time. We're not asking you to do things overnight. We're just asking you to realize that when we come in, we're not there to cost you money. We're there to protect your investment. That's why we're here. We're not here to cause problems as far as shutting you down or telling you you have to do this or that. When we tell you that, it's because it's in the fire code. The fire code is the bare minimum. The fire code is very pre-active. It's not sprinkler systems and alarm systems and all that. It's for the protection of the people and to protect your business and property. But we've got some pretty prominent people that are going to get up here and speak, and we're a little bit more educated as far as the fire marshal side of thing, and some of our engineers, and they'll speak about some of the things that we look at. Other than that, we are, and as far as fire inspections, you're going to start noticing we're going to increase that here in the city. I've implemented a plan where I'm taking my online firefighters and I'm resending them to inspector school. Some of you guys know there was a fire here called Christians in Action multiple years ago. That changed the way the fire service was allowed to inspect in Texas. Back then, just any old fireman could go in and do occupancy, life safety inspection. Well, that stopped after that fire. So now you have to be certified inspector. So I'm setting out all my officers, so I'll have 15 additional inspectors that'll be out in the community, meeting you, trying to help you become safe and protect your investment.
My name is Mark Lacey, and as I said, I work for Mesquite as a code captain there for a long time. I've been in the industry for nearly 4 decades. I'm a professor at Collin College where I teach us to firefighters how to be fire marshals, and how anybody here buys into making this town better. Well, if you don't want to see this town become better, then, you know, that's your choice, but you might not want to be in this room, because this room is about what we can do to make things better. I'm all about team. I don't know how this thing works, so bear with me. I made a little presentation. I am an eternal optimist. I believe in the old adage, you know, I knew a man complained of having no shoes till he met a man that had no feet. And, you know, so it can always be worse. So enjoy what you have and let's make it better. You know, let's not complain. We're here to talk about code and how it can help sustain your business and help our economy grow within the community. The code is there by not arbitrary means. It is developed by professionals, engineers, business professionals, government agencies, and people that do this, that are experts in these fields, and they sit around and have code conferences. And it's never proactive, it's generally reactive. Something bad happens, these experts get together and say, how did this happen? They figure it out, they make a code amendment, then they put it out for a vote, they all vote on it, they make comments, whatever, and then it's published. Then the local jurisdiction, run by your legislative branch, which is your city council and mayor, they will then decide if they're going to adopt that code and make it law within the city. If they make it law within the city, then your administrator, your fire chief, your police chief, your city manager, all those people that, engineers, that work to run your city, they have to enforce that law. It's a law adopted by the legislative branch. That's why when they usually have these things, they have public hearings where citizens come and comment. Sometimes they'll make local amendments. They get some feedback saying, you know, we don't like dumpster enclosures being 12 foot tall with iron gates. So, okay, well, we can amend that and say we're going to make it 6 foot tall with wood gates. You know, and then they adopt that in the ordinance and it becomes the law of the city. So it's not arbitrary when you see these guys going out trying to do things. We are human. Jesus was the only perfect person on earth. We didn't like that. We put him on the cross. And so we make mistakes. We try to learn from them. So we're here today to get your input on what we can do as a city to make it better for you as our customers, because that's what you are. We're all stakeholders in this community. So give us good feedback. Give us some input, not just complaints, but give me a solution. What do we need to do to enhance our code efforts so that we can all work together to make our community more viable, economically, and safe. I think is that a good message to send out that we want? Yes, no, indifferent? All right. You guys are the center of this community. Without businesses, we don't have jobs. Without jobs, you don't have residents. Without residents, you don't have businesses. It's a vicious cycle. Everybody agree with that? One begets the other. In Forney, where I was a city councilman there, we used to call it rooftops. Without rooftops, businesses don't come. I think that's pretty simple analogy. The more people you got, the more businesses you'll have, right? And one begets the other. Without Campbell's Soup being here, that's what, 2,000 employees, give or take, that might not be living here in our community. Kimberly Clark, same way. Any of your little businesses. Most businesses, small businesses, create the most jobs, correct? There's 25,000 people in this town. They don't all work at Soup. A lot of them work for you. They work with you. So, as the chief said, if you suffer a fire, many of those businesses won't recover. You've lost your investment. You lost your livelihood. It's your inheritance you may be leaving to your family, your legacy, if it's a family business. You lose your customers, loss of contracts. Key employees leave, because I gotta feed my family. I love you dearly, but I gotta make a paycheck so I can go feed my family, make my house payment. All these things going down. Loss of your business records, devastating. Even computers now, because a lot of that stuff is stored on site. A fire doesn't discriminate. The heat will destroy a flash drive that way. So will water, because fire will destroy a lot of water. Insufficient insurance. Some insurance companies, we have any insurance agents in here? None? I invited a couple. Here's what I was told about. Yes, insurance agent? No. I invited a couple here. Some insurance agents in your community told me that depending on the building, they might not even write insurance on it if it doesn't have a sprinkler system. That's a big loss, and that means you're going to have to self-insure it, and that's another risk to your livelihood, your family. So that, you know, it's all about, you guys are business people. You understand risk and reward, return on investment. Financial reasons relative to all the above. Your cash flows change. Your outflows are still the same on your payroll. You're still going to pay for that mortgage that burned down to the insurance company pays for it. You're still going to have debt on your equipment, right? Your capital expenditures. You're still paying those bills. You got everything. We're all about cash flow. Cash in, cash out, and you make your profits. How does it affect the community? Well, you're the central of the community. If we lose one of your businesses, trust me, the city of Paris doesn't budget to lose $1 million structure. At a 57 cent, 58 cent tax rate, what's our tax rate here, man?
55.
55. A 55-cent tax rate on $1 million, that's a lot of money out of the budget on one fire, $1 million loss. Well, this city's running on a zero profit. They're not a for-profit organization. They take it in, it goes out. They start the year off at zero again. Am I correct? That's Texas law, as a matter of fact. So if you lose a structure, not only are you losing the ad valorem tax on that structure, but you're losing the payroll tax. Those employees who are gaining livelihood from that, who are now not shopping at Walmart or going to eat at Applebee's or Mary's Cafe or wherever they go. That's economic activity is gone. Right? Wards is a good example. They employ probably 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Right? Well, those people don't have to paycheck. And customer habits, if I went to Ward's to eat coffee, drink coffee every day, I used to go to Nancy's. But if I went to Ward's and they closed down, now I might go to McKee's or Mary's or Denny's. And again, done that, Ward's opens up or not. I've established a new relationship with my new business, right? My waitress now is my favorite waitress. My other waitress is gone, so I like this one now. So I go there every Saturday and have coffee. And those companies maybe not survive that. Suppliers count on you, electrical warehouses here that might be giving you instruments. They're impacted. So it's a chain reaction, a domino effect that takes place when you lose a business. It doesn't just affect the business, it affects the entire community. We don't want that to happen. Code is there to help you prevent that from happening. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Because the variable in all of this is who? You. Building by itself standing here won't work. You put a human being in it, that human element, that's when you have risk. I'm a Larson guy, that's generally what I found to be the case. Now, I may be wrong. Anybody disagree with that? There are other taxing entities involved in our community. The schools will suffer. They're not going to get that tax revenue. The county doesn't get the tax revenue. You guys are supporting this community through your activities. You don't even, I don't know if you know how important you are to our city. You create the jobs and you pay for everything. indirectly or directly. So building owners' occupants require assurance that their lives, so as a business, you come into town, you want to put $500,000 into a building in downtown Paris. I'm going to invest $500,000 into property, not counting improvements. How do I guarantee that my property is not going to be destroyed or impacted by the guy next to me or the gal on the other side? Code. Fairly implemented code. Not brother-in-law code, not sister-in-law code, code. It applied equally within the law. That doesn't mean they have to come hit you in the head with a hammer. That's not the intent of the code. The code is more of an inform, educate. I find that usually attract more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. Is that true? Kindness always goes a long way. Most of y'all in this room, I've never met a business owner who didn't want to do the right thing. What I've heard from business owners is, just tell me once, don't come in and change it 5 times and make me spend money 5 times. So communication is essential. We need to get that link established so that when you guys are starting to anticipate making a change to your business or expansion or build a new business, that information is available to you in an accessible format so you can plan. Does that sound simple enough? Yes. We are trying to get the city to, I think Chief McMonagle and Chief Clyde Cruz and Chief Vogel have all agreed to working on a web page now to try to make electronic submittals of plans and permits, and they're creating a generic website, webmail, so you can ask questions and people can communicate back and forth instead of just going into this great unknown they call the cloud and never hearing back from anybody. So they're taking steps, but it's a process, as the chief said. That's my mantra in all of life. It's a process. We got to learn and grow and work together. It can't happen overnight. Chief McMonagle has other duties, and he's trying to get this. The city here does a lot of work with very little staff. Well, I learned coming here, because I was kind of spoiled like the chief was. Coming from Arlington, Mesquite, we have large tax bases, large departments. You know, you say I want to get something, it's done. You know, manager might say, well, I got to have this there, but you had staff to do it here. Each of these people, as y'all are aware, you're wearing multiple hats. All right, so they got to work on that, and we got to get that worked out and be more efficient. This is all self-explanatory. We need to develop partnerships. That's what this is about. This is not me telling you what I think. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's about what you think as well. Together, we can do what we need to do. The city can't do this by itself. It really does take a cooperative effort from all the stakeholders in our community. Because you are stakeholders, yes? Your families are here. This is where you grew up. This is where your business is at. This is where your livelihood. This is where your friends are. You're also a stockholder. As Paris does, you do. If Paris is failing economically, y'all are failing economically. So you hold multiple hats as well: business owner, parent, educator, finance person, contractor. You guys are so essential to our community. It's important we all communicate with each other and work together. Is that going to be an easy process? No. Forming teams, anybody got it? Storming is the first part here. Forming and storming a team. So today we're in the forming phase. Yes, we will have storming, which means there's going to be conflict. But if we do it in a constructive manner, we can resolve it and get to where we have an efficient community team that can start to perform at a high level and maintain sustainability in our growth and our efforts to make Paris what we all think it should be. I think that's a good cheerleader message to Sam, but it's up to y'all to help make that work. And it is a process. It's just what I was talking about: forming, storming, norming, forming. In business school, that's very common in team development. And I'm done. We brought a lot of people here today. This is not a one-way thing. We're going to have some other speakers very quickly cover some things with you. They are experts. Kelly with the State Fire Marshal's office, his office regulates the people you hire to do your fire alarm systems, your sprinkler systems, and your hood systems. They work for you as a customer. So when you hire them, they have to, by their license, do things in a certain way. Sometimes they will tell you bad news. It's the reality of it. I think Buddy's RME, his license requires him to do certain things. He can't always take shortcuts on things. Where's the fire marshal's office come in this? He's there to make sure they're giving you what you're paying for. Their license requires them to do ABC. You're paying them to do ABC. If I come and find out they went A and C and left that B, I'm gonna try and make them do B. You might get mad at me because it delays your project, right? But I'm still trying to get your best interest at heart. Sometimes there's a conflict that way. It's not always smooth. But I want to get feedback from y'all at the end of this. I'm going to let the State Fire Marshal's office, Kelly Costello, speak. He is a professional electrical engineer as well. and works directly with the state fire marshal, who does all the licensing for people like Buddy, Zach Blunt, and Fire Tech, and Fire Troll, you name any alarm company, sprinkler company, state of Texas, or a good company. They come out of that office. They are licensed by that office. Then we have Mr. Coker, who is an actual fire protection engineer, does third-party review for about 30 or 40 cities in North Texas. He is an expert in sprinkler systems. He's been in the industry for about 50 years and carries that engineering license. He graduated from UTA back when they had thatch roofs. I mean, that's been there a long time. So, anyway, I'll let them speak, and then at the end, we want to hear back from you. Also, please don't think this is just, I really want to hear feedback, positive or negative. We can all use it for constructive development. So we're going to move on to this. Thank you very much for your time.
State Fire Marshal's Office, our primary responsibility is for state-owned, state dirt, state buildings, and state leased property. So any of the university systems that say Texas, you know, except maybe Texas Christian, I think that's a private school. Hard to say, right? But the reason we might get involved is because we, especially in a city like this that has an adopted fire code and an established fire marshal, is because they ask us to help and consult with them. And we do a lot of that, a lot of consulting. Now, if it's an area of the state that has no adopted code and no fire marshal, then we can go in and provide inspection services. We don't just show up. We do that on the basis of a request. So we're one of only 2 states that doesn't have a statewide adopted fire code. So if you call my office and say, I don't like what Clyde did, I can't make Clyde do stuff unless it's really egregious, and then we go visit with the Attorney General, and it's not pretty, and that's not the direction you want to go. What we can do is, we can make sure, especially like for you folks who are developing and building owners and so forth, as Mark mentioned, we do regulate alarms, extinguishers, sprinkler systems. I was going to say whatever this guy does. Sprinkler systems. We don't regulate the mechanical part of hood systems. It's really the extinguishing systems that are included in those hood systems that our license covers. But of course, it has to be constructed appropriately to handle that system. And that's done at a statewide level. It's not like in some places where every city has a set of rules and they don't necessarily match any other cities, and it's really complicated. Kind of like the direction we were afraid maybe they were going to go with plumbing, God forbid, but doesn't look like that's what's going to end up happening. So if there is an issue, most of our phone calls come from public officials, from local fire marshals say, I've got a problem, can you come take a look at, tagging, because all of these things have to be inspected and maintained, because they're really not any good if they're not, right? They can't just throw it in there and walk away and then expect it to work 100 years from now. It has to be maintained. Water, any of you seen the Grand Canyon? That's what happens if you don't maintain your sprinkler system. So a little bit about my background. I started out in volunteer fire service in a little bitty town in Collin County, and ended up as the fire chief of another little bitty town in Collin County on the paid side of that, about 28 years. I've also done a lot of work on what they call the private engineering side, doing what they call forensic engineering. And that's, you never want to have a visit from me from that, because it means you've had a bad fire, and I'm trying to come in and help them figure out why that happened. Unfortunately, a lot of times, what I have to say is, but for the presence of a sprinkler system, or but for the presence of an alarm system, this might not have happened. So please don't make us say that. And I was honest when I said we are here to help. My phone number, email is listed on our website, and folks here know how to get a hold of us. But my best recommendation I can make is work with your local officials, and let's try to do it at a local level, because you know what your community's resources are. You know what your community is trying to accomplish. And it's best if you regulate yourselves and don't try to, bring the state in and make us try to figure out. Because we don't like.
How's everybody doing? My name is John Akram. I'm the building official here for the City of Paris. I've been here since January of this year. Just a little background. Prior to that, I was the building inspection supervisor for the City of Rockwall for 12 years. And then prior to that, I did heating and air conditioning for a while, a little plumbing, even worked as an electrician for a couple of years. So kind of been around the trades pretty much most of my life. So the reason why I bring up the history of codes is kind of a twofold. One, they're not new. Codes have been around for a very, very long time. And the second thing is that everything that we're enforcing today for our building codes are just minimum standards. You can always make the building better, stronger, safer, but what we're actually enforcing is just the minimum life standards. Some of the things that you guys are probably here for, especially on newer codes, the COs that are coming out, when inspectors are going out doing a CO and that kind of stuff, ADA requirements, exit signs, lighting, some of those requirements. Basically, the way the building code works is if you're an established building and you've been there for a period of time, you can remain as long as that building is in use by the way it was permitted in CO. Once you apply for a CO, change ownership, do an alteration and expansion, that's when we go in and we start asking you to come up to the current building standards. And a lot of times when our inspectors are going in, I know for COs, business owners get frustrated because they're asking them to make improvements to their buildings. All they're trying to do is update to the current building codes. If we didn't enforce it at that point, the building codes would never be enforced, other than on new structures. So basically that's how it comes into play for us updating the building codes. I put a copy out there. I didn't make a lot of copies. I didn't realize there was going to be that many people here for asbestos surveys. There's a lot of questions that always come out on asbestos surveys. Asbestos surveys are required anytime a demolition is being done on a public building or a commercial building. It doesn't matter if the building was built last week and then you go to demo it today. You have to get an asbestos report done. There is an option in there, and if you got the handout, where you can have the architect basically provide a letter saying you reviewed the MSDS sheets and you can verify that there's no asbestos in the building. But other than that, you have to get an asbestos report on any demo work. Another big question is the fire sprinkler systems. In Paris today, currently, we have a 6,000 square foot minimum requirement. So if you're building a building that's over 6,000 square foot, you do have to put a fire sprinkler system in if it's a commercial building. One quick fact on that too, is that there has never been a multiple casualty event in a fire sprinkled building, in a properly sprinkled building. And you can Google that online. In the United States today, that's an amazing stat. If you think about it, that not more than one person has ever died in a fire sprinkled building. So they are extremely safe, and people tend to get out of them. As long as everything else, you got your egress and your exit signs, your lighting, and your pathways and all that stuff. But never has there been a multiple casualty event in a properly sprinkled building. Also too, on fire sprinkler systems, kind of another reason why I gave you the history of the codes is, in the 2021 cycle, I don't know 100% sure, from what I understand, it's already in the code that you have to sprinkle residential homes. But the state of Texas has amended that out of the code. But I think in 2021, from what I hear, the state is not going to amend that out. So that means when the city adopts the 2021 code, all residential properties will have to be sprinkled. We'll have to have a fire suppression system in the house. So that's kind of a big deal. And just to give you guys some stats on that too, some of the biggest fires that we've had in the United States, or the most deadliest fires, have really happened within the last 40 years. In 2003, there was a Chicago fire that killed 21. In Oakland in 2016, there was a fire that killed 36 people. In 1977, the Beverly Hills Club fire killed 165. In 2003, the Rhode Island fire killed 100. The Bronx fire in 1990 killed 87. And the MGM Grand Vegas building in 1980 in Vegas killed 84. And the one thing about those buildings that they all have in common is none of them are sprinkled. Most of them didn't have enough exit or egress path. They didn't have basic emergency lighting and basic life safety functions that we're trying to enforce when it comes to the code. And it's these kind of tragic events that ultimately the code's trying to prevent. And all we're trying to do is enforce those basic life safety functions. So I'll be around. If you got any questions specific to your particular project, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
I'm Mike Drew, I'm the fire marshal. They pretty much kind of covered everything that goes with what my code does. For my position, my stance on enforcing the fire code is, like you said earlier, we're a town of about 25,000 people. You ask the right person, our daytime population here with our industry and your businesses providing jobs is about 60,000. So my job in all this is to take that fire code, which does apply to the new construction as well as to the existing buildings, and be the advocate or the voice for the population out there that doesn't know anything about those codes, so that when they go into your buildings and that fire happens, that they're safe. That's my job in all this. Again, the codes are a minimum life safety standard. I'm there to speak for those people who know nothing about it, to keep them safe in the community when they're out there. You know, he's talked a lot about the code history and how they develop and that they keep on going forward. A lot of times we, as a community and in our own past history here in Paris, we've fallen behind the times. You know, I go ahead and say it. There was the state mandated that all incorporated areas in the state of Texas in 2006, I believe, had to adopt at a minimum the 2003 International Building Code. It's like September of 2006. So in April of 2008, we had a fire that they talked about earlier, where 5 men died in the homeless shelter here in Paris, Texas, and we still hadn't had an adopted edition of that code that the state had mandated as a life safety minimum for all residents of the state of Texas. 2 years after that fire, the city of Paris finally adopted a code, which was the 06 code, and that was in 2010. Right there, we're already 4 years behind. And we maintained the 2006 building codes up until 2015. And that's our 17. 2017, we updated to the 15 codes. And how that kind of affects your city is your ISO rates, the people who set the insurance rates and stuff for your businesses that you have to insure, personal property insurance, all those insurance rates, they're affected by an ISO rating system. Those people who set all those rules like to see that cities who have to have a code keep that within 5 years, give or take a few of the current year date. So right now, we just went to the 15 codes in 17. I know this gets kind of confusing, but next year's 2020, so our codes are 5 years out of date. And it'll be time to update again. Hopefully we'll go to the one that's more current so we don't have to do it as often. When you let them fall a long way behind, it even compounds the problems of not having one to follow or not following, because now we have to catch up so far. One thing as a code enforcement person that I'm really not too eager to look at is there's a code in the 21 codes that's going to be a retroactive code requirement. It's basically put into the code and it says that when you adopt this code, it becomes retroactive. If you own, say, a restaurant or a bar or nightclub right now, and it was under the 6,000 square foot requirement, and you had under the 100 people occupant load, and you're serving alcohol to those people, I don't have to make a sprinkle. In the new code edition, it gives no exception for square footage or number of occupants in your building. If you're serving alcohol to the public, you have to sprinkle that building. And that's because people become inebriated or impaired by alcohol and they can't self-evacuate. And that's when problems occur. So, but anyway, that kind of thing is coming out. And I just wanted to let that out there. Sometimes I feel personally like I'm the bad guy when I go out there. I'm just enforcing a minimum standard of things. And my only concern is to be that advocate for the citizens. That's what fire departments do. We protect life and property, and I'm the people who don't know the voice in protection.
You know, when you talk about sprinkler systems in the United States, there's really not one documented fatality in a building that has a workable sprinkler system. In the United States, 3,600 people on average die in fires every year. That's more than we lost in the World Trade Centers. That's why sprinkler systems are important. Because in those buildings that have them, we don't lose anybody. But outside of it, 3,600. So just think about that. That's a lot of people. Not to mention how many businesses shut down and never reopen again. Now, a good portion of those are in residential fires, 80% of them, but we still lose people in businesses as well. So just take that into account. I know sprinkler systems are expensive. When we walk in and say you need to put a sprinkler system, it's like, all you see is this money going ching, 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 ching. There is some tax reform out there that President Trump, is playing.
You're the leaders within our community. You can make this happen. You're hearing the staff here say, we want to work with you. You got the mayor stood up here and said, we want to do things too. So what's stopping us? It's ourselves. So please don't take a defeatist attitude. Let's be proactive. Let's do this. Let's be our biggest cheerleaders. Nobody else, they say if you're not cheering yourself on, nobody else will. So let's cheer ourselves on. Let's move forward. Has anybody got any other questions that we can take to put into this basket that we're going to try and work on and call a sustainable business partnership? Sounds fun, doesn't it? Anybody? Please, we want to help you. We want your input. Please don't make this a one-way communication. That doesn't work. It's not a parent-child relationship. I'm looking at a bunch of smart, grown-up adults in here who are successful business people. Please give us ideas on how to become better.
Got one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a sign-up sheet if you're available to help in a certain area?
We will create one. I know that Chief Cruz gave his email, Chief Vogels got his business card with his email on it. John has got his up there. You contact any of the city staff, and I promise you somebody will get on it. These people want to do right. Carl, the city engineer, is working. Chief Lamar, Chief Cruz, John Agram, Chief Vogel. Don't know who the city manager is going to be. Wherever that'll be, I'm sure he or she will be on board as well. We all want the same thing, because they work for the, the mayor who just left, who is saying, he's here for a reason. He left his practice to come here because he's interested in what we are all trying to accomplish as well. How much more encouragement do we need? You got the council support, you got staff support. What we need is a business community support. We're not your enemy, we're your ally. Please help us, communicate with us in a positive manner.